just the name of our show.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going? Welcome to The Large Glass.
Yes, welcome.
So, here we are, 2021. It's official. And,
Yeah.
how do you feel?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I feel pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, 21, off to a okay start.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So far?
I think people are pretty hopeful that things are on the mend.
Yeah. Could be. I am.
I know. I am too.
Although, I got to say, speaking of hopeful, I decided today would be a really good idea to completely revamp all the stuff we stream with. So I changed everything around like I do every 3 or 4 weeks. And so, you know, I'm prepping for imminent technological failure and doom.
No,
So get ready.
It's going to work out.
I'm going to have problems.
This is our year. It's 2021. It's going to be good.
Oh, wait a minute. Who we got? There's Carolyn Thau. Hi.
Hey.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we got
Ben is here
Ben's
too.
here. Hi, Ben. How's it going? Happy New Year. We got a cool show tonight.
We do. We do. We kind of mixed up the format a little bit.
We did. We did. We've changed a few things around in a good way.
In a good way.
We're trying to get better. We're trying to be.
Well, I think it's more informative, too.
Well, that's the thing. Is I mean, I felt like the loose bar room, sort of environment was kind of there's Memory Vessel and Pumpkin Audrey. Hello to both of you.
Hi.
And Mom.
Hello.
Hi, you both look great. That's so nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So do you.
Yeah, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah, informative.
Oh, yeah. Informative and mixing it up a little bit. And
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about what you decided to title that segment because I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
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 So what are we drinking?
We are drinking whatever we got left over. So let's see. You have
Well, I have
the red.
I've got a red and you have a white.
And I have a white.
Yeah. And we already kind of started pre-gaming a little bit like we have been. So for those of you who are new here that have never seen the show before, our goal is to bring you discussion and conversation around art and artists and process and studio practice and conceptual stuff, technique, all that good stuff. And so we host the show every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and we have a drink. And you can too.
Yep. We have been trying to pair them as well, but sometimes
it just doesn't
is what it is
work out.
Couldn't
Plus,
get to the liquor store.
well,
and
we
all
have a
that
new
stuff.
puppy.
And we have a puppy.
So that didn't let me get to the liquor store.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's
There's
fine.
There's Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Good to see you, buddy. So let's pour.
Yes.
Even though you're going to see I've already got a little bit in here. Here, let me pour you.
You want to pour me?
Yeah, I'm going to pour you.
I'm drinking Hamilton Creek.
Hamilton Creek.
Sauvignon Blanc.
So lovely, lovely. Let's go for a little
From the Napa
ASMR.
Valley.
Hold on a minute.
2018, before Corona changed our lives.
Here we go.
Here we go. Thank you.
Oh, that was lovely.
That was lovely.
For those of you with headphones, you're welcome for the tingling brain. I'll do a little on mine too. Here we go. Ready? All right. Now I'm going to turn that gain down so I don't blow your eardrums out with my obnoxious voice. There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, here's to tonight's show.
Tonight's show.
Here's to all of you. Happy New Year
Happy
to everybody.
New Year. Yeah.
And cheers.
Cheers.
Memory vessels like puppies. Don't pour it on the table and love that sound. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Ben, I'd probably be more likely to pour it on the actual mic, which would be, it would be that technological failure I'm expecting for tonight.
Yeah, no technological failures tonight. It's a new year.
It is. It is.
Get this.
So,
wow. Okay, so where do we start?
well, I think we should start with our news segment. Should we do a news segment?
We can do a new segment.
I like the news segment.
I love it.
So we decided to throw in a little news segment. We want to talk about things that are happening either, in the art scene locally, in the art scene nearby in New York, or the art scene around the world, if possible. and also kind of pair it with a little bit of, something you can do during the pandemic. And so we're going to be throwing in little things, not much, but just maybe something to kind of keep you guys informed. And so I decided, let's just call it art news.
Art news.
And
it was like,
Terry was like, I don't want to call it art news.
It seemed a little too formal, like art news.
So we're going to call it Sup. But we're not talking about this guy.
Oh, we're not talking about this guy yet.
Not yet. We're going to turn this. We're going to talk about this place.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Storm King Art Center in New York, it's in New Windsor, New York, is a fantastic place to visit. Now, I believe it's currently closed because it's wintertime, and also partly due to the pandemic, but I don't think that's the primary reason. But the news of Storm King Art Center is they will be installing the first permanent piece of sculpture they have installed since 2008. These grounds are immense. Walking them in a single day is challenging, if not impossible. They roll through the hills, and everywhere you go, there are surprises of installation sculpture, large pieces of sculpture that take over the landscape. Like, I think that's the Marc de Souvero in the background. And it's a beautiful place to go and have a picnic. They have a couple of little food kiosks out and about where you can sit and eat. And from New Jersey or New York City, it's probably under 2 hours, hour and a half drive. It's not bad, right? We've been up there a number of times. We love it. And they have not installed a new permanent piece of art since 2008, and they will this year by Sarah Z, spelled SZE. Take a look at her work if you want to. I will also post links to it in the YouTube link tomorrow. But they're going to be putting a piece of work in of hers in May. And they're also going to have a subsequent indoor show. Social distancing rules will apply, of some of her other work. And she's a fantastic sculptor. I love her work. And I'm really happy that Storm King is going to be getting a piece of hers. And here is just another image of one of the sculptures at Storm King. You can actually walk around on the roof of this thing, which is kind of cool. And so there's a lot to see there. And I think it's worth the trip.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, okay. So that's number one in our little art news segment. Art news segment, sup. Number two is I like to keep it local. And as a New Jersey resident, I also would like to sort of keep things, coming back to New Jersey a little bit. I think that, New York is obviously the place everyone thinks of when we talk about the art scene. But another thing is I heard a really, really awesome quote from a collector curator who said the periphery is the new center. And I definitely think we're the periphery. And so Ben's like, nice landscape. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Memory Vessel's like, love, especially the silver dollar chair. Yeah, there's so much good stuff to see.
So much.
Mom says I'm frozen, but I think we're good. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we dropped a few frames there, but we'll be okay. So anyway, at the Hunterdon Art Museum coming up on January 24th is a new show curated by Caitlin Vitalo. It's called Glass in the Expanded Field, and it kind of looks at the ways in which artists have appropriated the glass trade in a variety of different ways. And I saw a couple of images from that on the Hunterdon Art Museum website that looked really promising. So that looks to be a really good show. So if you're in New Jersey, specifically Clinton, New Jersey, maybe plan to pop in and see that. I know that they also have social distancing guidelines and attendance guidelines in play. If you're interested in any of that, you can go to hunterdonartmuseum.org to find out more about that. And then number three, hold on a minute. Oh, there's an interior shot of the Hunterdon Art Museum. It's a really, really cool old building.
I love it. It's several floors. It's right in the heart of historic Clinton, which is absolutely gorgeous. The backdrop to lots of, when you think of the more beautiful parts of New Jersey, this is like postcard picture perfect. So that's where it's located. Yeah, and I think we're really lucky in this type of area, this rural area, to have such a valuable treasure. So definitely visit and support the Hunterdon Art Museum. And then number three, this is an interesting one for those of us who are less comfortable with going out still or don't have the means to go out still.
is there is a new documentary out by Jennifer Trainer called Museum Town. And this one actually looks really cool. It is basically a documentary that looks at the rise of MASMOCA, which is the Museum of Contemporary Art in North Adams, Massachusetts. It's a fantastic looking documentary. I've not seen it yet, but I have the trailer. So can we take a look at that trailer? I would love to see that. So let's go here, and I'm just going to play you a quick 2-minute trailer for that, do a little plug for them. Have a listen.
Do you remember when you first heard about the idea for MASMOCA and what you thought about it?
I'm thinking, like everybody else, what is contemporary art? And then when I saw a little bit of it, I thought, oh my God, what is that stuff? People in North Adams are not ready for this.
North Adams, Massachusetts. Once bustling and prosperous, its main street now is virtually empty.
All of a sudden, Tom came in with this great idea, but this great idea was totally antithetical to what this town was. An art museum? A modern art museum? What's that?
I feel that it is a waste of money.
The fundamental message that we put on the table was that art museums are an 18th century idea in a 19th century box. They had to confront the limitations of the box.
Oh my God, no way.
There was some trepidation because my stuff was had pictures of drug paraphernalia and lots of other elements that were less than totally savory.
So if the state of Massachusetts were to put in, say, $35 million of taxpayers' money, is this the kind of art that you would propose putting on view? And I said, well, yes, this is exactly the kind of work that we would show.
I see this as, say, sanctuary of sorts, but it's also this migration hub. So this is where they all come together and nest and communicate. So it's sort of a metaphor for us as a people. And this is just this place of imagination and dreaming.
Such a cool looking documentary, and it helps that 3 of my favorite artists showed up in the trailer. I was just like,
looks like a stop for the bus tour.
A bus tour stop.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think so.
And plus, it's within 3.5 hours drive.
It's pretty close. It's doable.
You basically go up to Albany, hang a right, and it's like another 40 minutes from Albany,
that's
35 minutes.
cool.
So that's really not bad. And 3 really great artists in there: Nick Cave, David Byrne, and Gregory Crewdson all showed up. And I mean, they're pivotal people in terms of that scene up there. Am Schmidt is here. Last time I was there, you have to forgive me. My main chat window, which is normally over here, crapped out on me. So I'm reading the tiny one, and I don't have my glasses on.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, can you read it?
I can read it. Last time I was at the Hunterdon Art Museum, I woke up with what stands as the worst hangover of my life. Hashtag Dad and Audrey. Wow.
That's because the Hunterdon Art Museum opens its doors for you to be able to use it as a venue. And I believe there was a party held there that you might have been at, Am. Yeah. Ben says that's a good trailer. Bring your snacks.
Or bus riders.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, just one more quick note on Museum Town. It is available to watch in a number of virtual cinemas around the country. And so, these are things that have popped up lately. So things like BAM Rose Cinema in Brooklyn has a virtual version of their own cinema to sort of compensate for the lack of attendance in the pandemic. Arts Quest Center at Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, PA. Also, there is a website called Kino Marquee, KinoMarquee.com, where you can go and it aggregates all of these cinemas. You can pick which movie you want to watch and then pay for the movie and watch it right in your home. So check out Museum Town. It looks awesome.
How does a virtual cinema work? Do they have showings at particular times and everybody logs in?
I've never done it.
Huh.
I don't know if it just streams.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people like that movie theater feeling where there's all the people around them. Like, you're kind of missing that, but I'm wondering, is it like on a Zoom thing? Like I don't know. I don't know how they do that.
Well, I think just to keep the reality, it would be cool if it was. Who's that? That's Mike Rader.
Show it 120 years ago. Never been there though. Someday.
Nice. So were you in a show, Mike, at Hunterdon, or did you go to a show 20 years ago? And if it was 20 years ago, was it the Dada show that they had there that was sort of commemorating Dada in Hunterdon County? Because if it was, I was there. And 20 years ago is right around, oh my God, it might have been that show. Please say it was that show. All right. Should we move on to birthdays?
We can move on.
Let's move on to birthdays. Yeah, we changed it to sup. So I got to come up now with my text because notable birthdays. We can.
He said no, that would be cool. And then your mom says that show was great.
That show was great. All right, so we're gonna move on to birthdays. And birthdays is here and here. Bam.
Okay, so this week we've got some birthdays.
We're going to do some artist birthdays real quick.
They might not be here anymore, but they certainly struck an influence on our lives. So anyway, the person that we have featured here, the funny thing is when Todd put this picture up, I was like, wow, you should do a cabinet card on this guy.
Yeah.
This is Hudson River School painter Albert Bierstadt. He was born on January 7th, 1830. He was a painter of Westward expansion. I believe you said that Bob Ross would have liked to have been him. I think that's how you were describing him to me.
But very different, but
He's got wagons in his pictures. Bob Ross did not paint wagons, really. That's the difference I was thinking.
Yeah, that's definitely the primary difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But let's see. Yep, you can see his work at the Met in New York City.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't want to linger too long on this because tonight's show is not necessarily about these artists, but we thought it would be a cool idea to just mention some artists' birthdays from either today or this week. And here...
This is Marsden Hartley. He was born on January 4th, 1877, so it was yesterday. He's another one who's had a birthday this week. Today...
Would you like me to advance? Because I was just...
So we're going to show some representation of their work as well. So this is one of his paintings.
I just realized that today's theme for the birthdays is men with prominent brows.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not on the right. Here we go. So, men with prominent brows. So today
is... So I've been butchering his name all week because we had a funny little back and forth banter about his name, but this is surrealist painter Yves Tanguy.
Tanguy.
That I cannot. I've been doing this all day long.
We've been playing with his name.
It doesn't matter, even though he's told me several times what it is. I've looked up the pronunciation.
Yves
I keep
Tanguy.
mispronouncing his name. He's a French surrealist painter. He was born in 1900. He died in 1955 from a stroke. He was born in Paris. He was not professionally trained at all, but he fell in love with painting. The first painter that actually influenced him was Georgia de Chirico. He was in with other artists like Salvador Dali, Mark Rothko, Man Ray, different Dada painters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And surreal.
And actually, this is one of the more flattering photos of Yves. He has some... I love this guy. He's an absolute lunatic in so many respects, and I love the way he presented himself in front of the camera. Look him up. He's a great study just in photos of him.
Actually, his personal life was very intriguing, too.
Yeah.
Because he was married. He had an affair with Peggy Guggenheim. Then he met his second wife, who is also an artist. Her name is Kay Sage. They had kind of a tumultuous relationship, but she brought him over to the States. He became naturalized as a citizen, and in 1955 is when he passed away in the States. So this is one of his paintings.
I'm reading the comments right now. So,
okay.
Oh my God,
you were looking at the painting.
No, Am says, "Oh my God, love this segment."
I'm French and can't pronounce it right. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Carolyn, if that's coming from you,
yes.
then that is straight from the bank, because that's
Tanguy.
Well, we had like 9 other pronunciations
yes.
too.
Yes.
Am's loving on Marsden Hartley, and And let's see, hats off to you for saying that name out loud. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I can't read that chat room tonight. It's
that's
just
all right. I'll keep,
my eyes are bad.
I'll keep reading to you.
Yeah, keep reading to me. Mom's like, love his work. Ben's like, looks like cotton. Yeah, it kind of does look like cotton a little bit. All right, and one of the things I loved about Tanguy when I was young, the thing that drew me to him was not his paintings, but his drawings. His drawings are just fantastic and very different from the paintings. I feel like they really have a more machine-like quality. The believability of them as a thing.
The composition's a lot different too.
Sure.
And I know that it's because the other ones more emulate the surreal pattern, but his paintings to me are very bottom heavy.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to move my eyes around the canvas.
Right.
And the atmosphere kind of diffuses everything, so my eyes are kind of sticking at the bottom. But everybody likes different things.
Well, yeah. And
I like his drawings. His drawings are pretty
These are
great.
definitely very cool. Carolyn says Alex thinks he's very cool. Hi, Alex. Hope you're there.
Hi.
Good to see you. Yeah, he is cool. Yeah. And there is one more notable birthday today that we decided to put.
It's not today.
It's not today. Sorry.
It's tomorrow. And gosh, if only our little bar was open.
So these are, of course, two of our favorite people that we mention all the time. Ben says that first painting of his that you showed of his looked just like cotton. Yeah, actually it did. That's that diffused kind of wave-like background that's going on back there.
It says TD Bone 66. Is he cool?
Is he cool?
Of course he's
cool. He's cool. He's definitely cool. She loves your show. Oh, good. Thanks, Alex.
Good.
So this guy, of course, is Marcel Duchamp. And no, it's not his birthday tomorrow. It's his wife's birthday tomorrow.
It's Teeny Duchamp's birthday tomorrow.
Teeny's birthday tomorrow.
We're going to have to do something special.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, our new speakeasy that's being built right now is named after her. And her birthday's tomorrow. So it's too bad. You know what? This time next year, we'll celebrate her birthday in that place, right? But for now, we're here. Yeah. And one beautiful thing about this, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to kind of keep a segment of this to the local element. Hunterdon County, New Jersey is where these two met.
Yep, this is where they met and fell in love.
They
Not
fell
too
in
far
love
away from
here
where
in
we are
Hunterdon
right
County,
now.
actually like right around the corner from us on some level. So this is kind of a cool story. So happy birthday, Teeny. And she was born in what year?
Oh, goodness. 1906.
1906.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1906, she would have been 105. No, 115.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't carry the...
Yes. Yep.
Math is hard.
It is hard.
So, Pumpkin Audrey says, Teeny. Well, it's Alexina. Alexina?
What is oh gosh, something Roberta. I don't know. Teeny, I don't know. Teeny.
I think it's Alexina, I believe.
Oh, she's got multiple names.
She does.
Something Roberta.
Memory Vessel says, did not know it. Yes, little known information. Actually, Memory Vessel, the coolest thing about this is they met through Henry Matisse. And Matisse lived in Tewksbury, New Jersey. He had a house there. He didn't live there full time, but he had a house there. And he invited Marcel Duchamp out to lunch, where they met Teeny through Matisse, which is really a wild thing. So, Mike's like, whoa.
Do you have a Teeny cabinet
Great
card?
Factoid. Yeah. You want to know what? A Teeny cabinet card would probably cost a real photo of her. Oh my God, that'd be crazy money. Anyway, those are the birthdays. So happy
birthdays.
Happy birthday to them.
Woo.
Should we start talking about our artists? We are like,
wow, we're like really.
I like doing this segment though. I think it's a good idea.
I think the birthdays are really important because when they were born and all of these people had such a mark on arts, and it's important to mention them and celebrate them. And this weekend I was compiling like a huge list of artists, and it's
you made a full-blown database, which is fantastic. So we've got all the artists' birthdays.
That's something we're gonna do every week.
Greg says she's a Jersey girl.
She's a Jersey girl.
You mean Teeny's a Jersey girl? Yeah, I believe that's correct. So what else is up here that we missed? Great factoid. Thanks, Mike. So it's kind of cool stuff. So let's see about tonight. Let's just go back here for a second. We had been talking for a long time about our subscriptions, and when we got to 10, we were going to give away a piece of Glenn Lavertue's work, which is taking a very long time, and that's okay. We know you guys love and support us because you're always here. I think what we're going to do is next week we're going to give that piece away on the show. Yeah, because I think it's been holding on for a while, and we're going to set a new sub goal. We have a new piece of art to offer up. It's actually one of my cabinet cards that I've been working on. I've been playing, so ever since the Alex Gross show, and I'll totally admit it on the show, I was like, wow, I really would love to play around. I had some ideas for how I could work with some of those cabinet cards, and I've been working on a bunch. And so if you've seen my Instagram, you know that I've been doing that. Going to give one away to you. So stay tuned for that. I'll show which one that's going to be next week. Next week we'll give away Glenn's work, so definitely join us for that. Let's talk about this week's artist, shall we? Let's go back to our sup screen, and let's switch over to William Kentridge, shall we?
Yes.
All right. So where is he? Is he here? Dun, dun, dun. Why don't you start introducing our artist?
Okay.
And I will load up our slideshow so we're ready to go, because I think here it is, Technological Failure, Episode 1. No, we'll get it. Don't worry. Okay. This is not a big deal.
Well, actually, William Kentridge was someone that you had wanted to do for a while, and I wasn't very familiar with his work at all. And then actually, when I was doing the birthdays and compiling the list, I noticed that he shared a birthday with my daughter. So I'm like, this is a sign. Maybe we should just go ahead and choose him. And when I first saw him, and when you're Googling or searching him, it's a lot of two-dimensional images that you're going to get right away. Charcoal drawings, they might not grab you right away because we're in this era of things that have to really suck your attention in, and his are very subdued if you're just looking at it from a two-dimensional sense. But what he does, he's South African. I'm not quite sure of how. He was born in 1955, so he's got a roundabout way of going through art. It's like he went into art, and then he said no, and then he went into something else, but then he gravitated back towards art, and then he tried something else, and he just kept coming back to art, and thank God he did, because he's phenomenal. His BA is in Politics and African Studies at the University of Witwatersrand. I'm going to get that wrong. Witwatersrand. Diploma in Fine Arts from Johannesburg Art Foundation. He lives in Johannesburg right now. He also, because he was working in this very roundabout way, he also did some theater because he had wanted to be an actor, and he went into mime school. And he got he studied doing that, and he went to Paris to become an actor, but then he was doing this from like 1975 to 1991, and he realized this is just not for me. So then he went back to art, and a lot of what you see him talk about is like, I keep ending up back in art, so which I love. Interestingly enough, he really was immersed in the whole apartheid in South Africa. His parents were prominent attorneys that were very anti-apartheid. They were, their names were Sidney Kentridge and Felicia. My handwriting is that bad.
It's okay.
Anyway, his parents were anti-apartheid lawyers. His heritage is Jewish. He mostly deals with a lot of social injustices and experiences with apartheid. They usually affect his work, as well as pain in the human condition.
The other thing he does, though, that's really big for me is he really focuses on the process and thinking. And for me, there's a very logical connection between his drawings and the animations, just from the standpoint of process. Not from the standpoint of, I want to make these move, but from the standpoint of what it is in a drawing and the process of making a drawing that naturally leads to wanting to make it move. So Mike's like, yes, WK. And Ben's like, pen and ink. Actually, it's not, Ben. It's
not
charcoal.
It's charcoal.
And he really goes into a lot about how he works this charcoal.
And there's a lot of reasons why he uses it as well. I don't know what that little anonymous cheer
just came back. Hang on. Just cheered 5 bits. Thanks very much for that. That's awesome.
Does our sound go out every time that happens?
No, our sound goes out once in a while, but this one held on because I can still see our meters moving, so we're still here. Okay. So yeah, good call though. Good call. Let's see.
Going back to the ink thing, he picks charcoal because it's a very malleable medium. I think that's mostly what he does.
Right.
We have been into a lot of artists that construct and deconstruct and bring it up and break it back down. And he tends to follow suit with that too when he's making his images.
Yeah, that's a cool way of thinking about it. He said this one really cool thing that stuck with me, and this is just kind of on still the introductory level, but he says, I am only an artist. My job is to make drawings, not to make sense. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying make the work. Worry about how it adds up from the standpoint of sense and meaning later, or allow it to come to you during that process rather than just trying to illustrate a thing. And he does this so well. And I keep forgetting to advance the slide because there's so many things to look at. Now, a lot of these drawings that we're looking at as I advance these slides are elements of things that ultimately move. And I've got some videos to show you of mostly him talking about his process that have elements of his videos in. You can look up William Kentridge videos on YouTube and find full-length versions of them. We're not going to show those tonight, but I think that they're, definitely worth going and seeing. But it's good to kind of have a glimpse into what he does. Another thing he talks about is the seriousness of play. He says, it's about saying in the looseness of different things, images and ideas emerge. It's about not knowing what something means in advance. It's always kind of been between the things I thought I was doing that the real work happens. So in between what he thinks he's up to, what he thinks his intention is, that's where the real work comes out. Am says, that's like some Tony Conrad love. Yeah, that's actually really good. And I apologize, I'm stumbling over reading these. I feel like
that's okay.
Amanda's here.
Yep. Hey, Amanda. Amanda says, I like how you can feel the hardness of what he's drawing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that hardness is really temporary.
Well, the hardness, I think, is two-directional in this. There's a hardness to the charcoal. There's a hardness to the content, because there's a gravity to this stuff, right? And it comes through in the weight of that material.
And I think the compositions seem kind of hard initially. Do you know what I mean? Like they seem like solid compositions, but shortly they get broken down a little bit.
Am says, Tony would say, make the work now. You have time to figure it out later. That's exactly right. I think that's the artist's job, right? Ben says, now you can
see the chalk effect in this piece.
Yeah, you can totally see it. And wait till we get into some of the moving stuff. You're going to absolutely see it.
Going back to the charcoal thing when we were looking at studio shots, one thing I love about it is he goes at charcoal in different forms. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
There's these beautiful chunks of charcoal, like rocks.
Big rocks.
Yeah, big rocks. And then he uses it in a wet form with this big, beautiful Japanese water brush where he mixes it with water and he paints with the charcoal. And then he shaves it, and then it becomes part of another moving element where he's blowing it around the screen. So he really manipulates the medium.
Right.
For his compositions.
Another thing he does that lately has kind of crept its way into the taboo areas of academia is he uses powdered charcoal, and he'll often use a dry brush to get like a smoky effect. And when he's using it in the studio, you can just see it billowing off the paper into the air. And I'm mostly almost always about good safety concerns, right? But some places have banned the use of vine charcoal and different types of lightweight charcoals, as opposed to just wearing some kind of protective covering, because this is a really delicious, malleable material. And I think that we're losing something by not using it. This goes on and on. I kind of want to show something really quick. I'm going to show a little video real quick about how he's talking about how this begins to move into motion for him. And I think this is a logical first place to start because it talks just kind of about how I just decided to film myself making some drawings, and you kind of see how it adds up. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Should we show that?
Absolutely.
All right, let me see if I can find that for us because I want to make sure I've got it. Here it is. Let's just watch a minute or two of this. I think you'll like what you're going to see.
I started at thinking it would be interesting to see how a drawing comes into being. That was the start of the last phase of animation, thinking I'll just photograph myself successively as I make a drawing. And then I discovered, of course, at the end that you didn't have to stop when the drawing was finished. You could keep altering the drawing and continuing filming, and suddenly you started making a film. But the central form, that of erasure and charcoal, was there before the idea of animation. It wasn't if I said, I want to do animation, what technique will be good? It will be charcoal. It was from the charcoal drawing that the process of animation expanded. And there's something about charcoal as opposed to oil paint, in which just with a wipe of a cloth it disappears, or you erase it very easily, so you can change the drawing as quickly as you can think. So it had an equivalence to the speed of thinking and the speed of drawing, and a provisionality in the animation. You didn't have to make a final drawing. You could make one fragment of a stage of something with imminence coming into being. I proceed from an impulse, from an image that's in my head, from something, a phrase, a central idea, and start drawing. And it's very slow, the animation. It takes several weeks, say, to do a minute. And then when I've got a minute of film, I'll look at that and think, well, what happens if we put this scene first and this scene second, or the other way around, or a third thing in between? What does it seem to suggest as a trajectory?
Let's pause that there. So I love that, right? He's really just talking about process again, and how, and he gets into this a little while about how the planning behind this. There's no planning. Like these things grow out of a need to make something, and they don't start with some kind of, here's point A. Let's develop a plan, and then we're going to move to point B. How about a storyboard? Right? No, that's not how this works. So it's like, there's really a sort of intuitiveness. There's a flexibility. There's an organicness to the way these things unfold, and I love that about the work. Am is saying some things. Can you read for me so I don't stumble over these?
This is amazing. That's like a scene from Painter's Painting. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, we got to show Painter's Painting. That's a great reference. Thank you. That's going on the list, especially when it comes to some of these other artists. I mean, I love Rauschenberg in Painter's Painting, but that's a different story. All right, so let's see. Let's go through a couple more of these, and then I want to show, there's another one I want to show that goes back into this notion of thought, another video. These are stills. These are pieces from some of the animated pieces that he's done. He deals a lot with this businessman whose name is Soho in this. It's a name that came to him out of a dream. He's sort of very stodgy. Always reading the business page of the paper. Very furrowed brow. He kind of has a really interesting, doesn't ever say anything, but you can get a lot from him. And of course, he's always also in this state of near death.
Yes.
Like he's either reading the paper, dealing with the business page, or on life support, which is just really strange. Let's just look one more time just about process here. I want to show you another video real quick. I think you'll like this one too. Have a look at this.
The films don't have a meaning which then gets drawn. The films come out of a need to make an image, an impulse to make a film, and the meaning emerges over the months of the making of the film. So the only meaning they have in advance is the need for the film to exist. All children draw. But most children have the good sense to stop drawing when they reach 14. But I kept on drawing. And I'd also been, as children do, playing, acting. And also most children have the good sense to leave it to professionals as they grow up, but I'd continued. So at university I was both drawing and acting in different student theatre groups. And I was advised by everybody you have to specialize. You either have to draw or you have to act, but you can't do both. You'll be an amateur. So I decided I could not be an artist anymore. So I closed my studio, I sold my etching press, and I went to theatre school to learn to be an actor, where I discovered after 3 weeks I should not be an actor. So then I was no longer an actor nor an artist, and I tried to be a filmmaker. But I failed at that. I think one can just write one's biography in terms of being rescued by one's failures. And I failed at painting, and I failed at acting, and I failed at filmmaking. So I discovered in the end, at the age of 30, I think, I was back making drawings. Even though I thought I wouldn't be an artist, that's the one thing I was doing. And then later on discovered, in fact, I also wanted to keep going with the theatre, and the drawings became films. And in the end, I gave up trying to say what I was. I was someone who did drawings and theatre and films, and it took me a long time to unlearn the advice I'd been given, and to understand, for me, the only hope was the cross-fertilization between different mediums and genres.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really important there. I love that segment. And, you know, just to get off of the topic of this idea of process and thought, and I know I'm running away with this right now. You're kind of like...
No, actually, it's reminding me of something that you were talking about a year ago at one of your shows. You were talking about the link between the mind and the hand and what is feeding which, because there's a real thought process going behind it.
Yeah.
And it's probably what is organically happening here. He's like, you know, he's moving his hand around. He starts off with an idea, but then what's coming out in the rendering is just triggering something else back, and it's feeding off of each other. So that's kind of where my thought process was going.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because the other thing that's really important here, and he does this so well, is that we often forget, like, you know, and this is something that I kind of have always struggled with drawing, especially other people's perceptions of drawing, is people are like, you make a drawing so that you have a thing. It's a thing you hang on the wall, and people say, oh, what a nice drawing. But the problem with that is that fails to recognize all of the tenets of drawing that involve, you know, the mind and the hand and the process of thought. And yeah, I've been beating that horse to death. But here's the thing. What Kentridge does that makes this work really well is he remembers that the actual artist is part of the drawing. He remembers that the actual performative side of it, the physical act of making the drawing, is part of it. And the theater side of things with this guy, and him building that into the connection and relationship with the drawing, is just like, there it is. That's what it's all about.
Do you have any clips of the theater
I do. And
because that alters the dimension, because we go into fourth dimension with some of those.
Totally. And I do have two. I have one where you kind of see it begin, where he's just sort of diving into this notion of the relationship between the artist and the viewer, which is really cool. And he makes this drawing into a performative thing. And this is kind of, I don't know if this is the first leap into theater for him, but it's a really, really good reference. Good sense to stop. Yeah, I think, Mike, you're talking about when he had to unlearn the advice that he had been given, I think. They also make me think of the book The Gift by Lewis Hyde. Yeah, totally. That's a really good... Oh, that's something we should talk about on the show one day. We should. That's a great book.
Okay.
Let's watch another video clip, because this one now sort of takes us down the road of that idea of performance in a really cool kind of way. Let's take a look at this one.
What I was trying to show in this film of the split between the artist as a viewer and as a maker, the fact that we occupy both of those subjectivities, was saying this is something which is very obvious in the studio. You make your drawing and you're very close to it, so you can't really have a good view, and then you step back to look at it and you see all the things that are wrong. And you make a mental note to say, all right, when I come back to the drawing, I must remember to shorten it or move this part down or make that darker, and then you step back. So that separation of oneself into these two contesting subjects is very obvious in the studio and very clear. What's less obvious and clear is the way that is how we always operate in the world. So if you're a writer, that sense you've written a paragraph and it seems great as you're writing it, and then you reread it, and one is disappointed with the fact that it's not better. It seems so much better when you're writing. And I'm writing such a great 4 lines of poetry here. This is fantastic. And then you read it, and you think, who's the idiot that's written that? How feeble. Why can't he write better? So I think that split is what I was trying to show, using what happens in the studio as an example, as a demonstration of other things. A lot of the work in the studio is demonstrating emblematically how we make sense of the world outside of the studio, which we naturalize and it becomes invisible. So if you think of a collage as a classic 20th century art form, where you take fragments of a newspaper headline, a photograph, different things, and you combine them together to make a sense. One's very used to that as an artwork. But if you think for one instant, one understands that is the way we have to go through the world. There's no other way of going through the world. We don't have complete information. We can't take it in. We take in a fragment, a headline, a memory of a part of a dream, a phone conversation. And through this, we construct what feels to us and to others as a coherent being. When one understands this self, in fact, is a completely provisional, fragile construction of a walking collage of thoughts and ideas and thinking. So I think that's the way in which the space of the studio becomes a demonstration of things much larger than the studio, and much larger than the particular drawing. I mean, in the end, I think I learned much more from the theatre school in Paris, it's called Jacques Lecoq's School of Movement and Mind, than I ever did from the art lessons at an art foundation I went to, about what constitutes an artwork. What is the energy you need at the start of a gesture to complete it? When is something forced and when is something stopped? Understanding the way of thinking through the body. I mean, making art is a practical activity for me. It's not sitting at a computer.
I'm going to pause that one right there because I want to get back to, so I love seeing, you know, Ben actually just mentioned something, but he was mentioning earlier how he liked the use of the blue and the use of the red in there. And Kentridge does talk about that as this kind of more powerful, poignant element in, you know, like his use of things like water and blood in some of these things to sort of symbolize certain elements. And they really have a very powerful presence contrastingly in the work. Also, Mike's like, yeah, that's great. We are our own best and worst audience. Totally. But that's what makes the work grow, right? Evolve. I'm not necessarily saying that's what makes it good, but it's what informs us to kind of, I love what he said earlier about how we could write our autobiographies on the failures we were rescued by or something along those lines. I love that. Yeah. It's so true. Drawings are so ephemeral, yet they also feel like they are etched in stone. Yeah, you know, that's funny you mentioned that, and that's what I want to go back to about the weight of the charcoal.
Well, yeah, then that's what I was saying earlier about the like strong images, because they seem strong, like they seem heavy, like the subject material's heavy. They seem like strong drawings, like, you know, but they're just.
And then he just wipes them away.
Yeah, like the mortality of them dissolves. You know, he's all about breaking that down a little bit.
That's really cool. The mortality, yeah, because there's this kind of emotional weight that he's able to wipe free. Yeah. There's a lightness to the heaviness that he sort of plays with on both levels, which is really cool. Right. So where are my slide buttons? So yeah, so I've got a few more stills. I've got one more video to show that gets into a little bit more of this performative aspect, right? Because he really changes it up when he starts to take to the stage. And he's actually done these full-blown stage productions that revolve around... So he said something in the last video segment about collage, and how a collage is a collection of snippets and fragments that we bring together to make into a whole, right? Mm-hmm. And that's who we are. Right? We're not these sort of carefully planned out beings of linearity and sense making.
Yeah.
We're these walking collections of snippets of things we pull together all day long to assemble ourselves into what? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in the final iteration of where he takes his drawing, he brings it to this stage production that has all of those collage-like elements. The drawings are there, mm-hmm. the animations are there, mm-hmm. the people and the performative elements are there. The very physical representation and recognition of time
mm-hmm.
is there.
Well, he also, one thing we haven't really talked about, he does use typography in some of his compositions. And when he uses them, it actually is very structured and beautiful. They do have some collage elements, but I love his use of prints.
Yeah. Mike Rader says, mortality of the drawings is such a perfect description. I totally agree. I thought that was beautiful. That's right. It's like, there's that, we say ephemeral, we say this kind of thing, it's there and it's gone. But this sort of more calls for that term, I think, mm-hmm. in a really cool way. Mm-hmm. Let's move over to this video real quick. I want to show one more. That's the old video. This is the new one. So he talks a little bit about how he's influenced from different areas in this, and he gets into a little bit more into writing. But let's take a look at this.
Very central. I mean, it's true that writing is as much an influence on what I've read as looking at other images. And very often when I start a project, I'll start with a reading, rereading Mayakovsky, rereading bits of Beckett, rereading other texts rather than starting just from an image. It's a mixture. I mean, sometimes an image will set a process off as much as a piece of text. It's a starting question or a first image. Or a physical space in which something will happen, or thinking about text within an image. I'm very bad at telling stories, so there's usually not a story. You can construct one if you try hard, but no, if one wants to try to write a coherent story, it's hard work. There's some pieces like The Refusal of Time, which we've done over, I think, 7 cities. And after 7 cities, it's finally getting its form. It still changes. It still gets shaped and adjusted. And that's because each time there's a new theatre, we can rethink about certain things differently. Well, The Refusal of Time is a stage production of you can either think of it as an opera for spoken voice, in which I'm giving a series of short lectures, and there are musicians and singers and demonstrations and projections that amplify what I'm talking about. It's about different theories of time, from Newtonian simple time to the complicated time of Einsteinian relativity. But you can also think of it as a story, a parable about trying to escape one's fate, in which the piece goes from the myth of Perseus killing his grandfather to current scientific thinking about what happens in a black hole. And does everything end definitively, irredeemably, or does part of what exists remain as pieces of information following string theory, which in one sense theoretically has to be unentailable and the original object reconstructed. So although it's a lecture about theories and the science of time, it's also very much about a view towards death.
I love this.
The deer.
Yeah, so that one to me, like really kind of is the final culmination of all of these things in such a perfect way to bring that together. I loved in the one where he was talking about time was his drawing of the respirator that's going up and down, the life support. I guess you're a nurse, you know what these things are.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
That's not... You know when you watch TV and you're a nurse and you're like, that's not how it is. So I don't want to go quite there. I know what he's doing. I know exactly what he's doing. He's trying to mimic a ventilator.
That's what I meant, a ventilator.
And also an echo machine, but I get what he's trying to do.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it kind of, because he's bringing in those elements.
Yeah, he's bringing in those elements and...
Not as a person of science, but as a person who's making reference.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
So Kentridge has this, this is a rabbit hole we can go down for hours, and we could run this show 2 hours if we wanted to. Wait a minute. Mike says there's a whole bunch of things I missed in here, by the way. So Ben earlier said it reminds me of Yellow Submarine, which is kind of an interesting reference. I like that. And then Mike says saw a few of these theater pieces in person.
They're very physical.
They're very physical, like the drawing. Yeah, that's a cool way to connect the two. Like I was thinking of them more from the literal, well, not always the literal, but I was thinking about the notion of collage. I was thinking about the notion of all of the elements he's sort of engaged in and how they all relate to the very physical, thank you, Mike, act of drawing, right? I saw a show of his in Paris that had a piece. I wonder if I can find it now. And I'm going to try and find it on the fly. Let's go back to our main image. Hi. I'm going to see if I can find this other image, this other piece for you.
The speaker over there, should that be turned down a little bit?
Oh, am I getting echo?
I don't know if
I think I am.
Yeah, maybe.
Good,
I'm not sure.
good technicianing skills there. I'm going to see if I can.
My one contribution tonight.
Oh, come on. You make more than one contribution.
Like, what does this button do? Watch out. Okay.
Hold on. I'm looking up this black box machine that he had made, and I want to see if I can find it. Chamber Noir Part 1, Chamber Noir and Collaborators. Is this it? I think this is it. And of course the aspect ratio is going to be totally different from anything normal, so that's going to make it hard to put on the screen. Let me just see if this is it. Yeah, this is it. But I want one that's going to display... Hold on a minute. Maybe not that one, maybe this one. You guys are like, come on, dude, get it together. So this is this really interesting machine that he had made. It's like a miniature theater built as a box. There are several layers of transparencies that go back, and then so you're supposed to sit in front of it in little rows of benches, and you sit and you watch this little video unfold. Let me see if this fits on the screen right now. I don't think it's going to well. It is not, but I can try and fix it as we're talking. So the video is supposed to sit on the screen a little bit better than this. Hold on a minute, I'll get it. Just let me see where. I don't give up. I'm going to shift this around so you can see this. I don't like revealing what's behind the curtain, but there's a little YouTube ad next to it for all the videos I normally watch on things like art and chess. Anyway, you're sitting on these little benches in front of this beautiful wooden box theater, and there are these scrim layers that go back, and you see a variety of either projected images on the front or illuminated things from behind, as well as projected animations that he's made. But then, here's the best part. You're allowed to walk around the sides of this thing and actually look at what's going on from behind. And there are these mechanical operators, both shadow puppet elements that are working on these tracks that move back and forth that have light behind them, and as well as other mechanical elements that cause this whole experience to unfold. Now, what's beautiful about this is it is both a shadow, which is a projection from behind, a projection from the front, right? And it functions in like a whole variety of ways. So what he really took apart and thought about here was how all of these elements of theater could be like sort of distilled into this one box. It's such a beautiful object. If you can ever get a chance to see this somewhere, this thing just blew my mind and just is so beautiful to just spend time with. So that was an unplanned aside. I probably should have had that better prepared, but I apologize. Yeah, we got some comments. Carolyn Thou saying very cool. Ansley, no, you also say. I think we can go back. Out loud. Oh my God. A Quay Brothers film, yeah, it's exactly like that. It's like, it's sort of like, oh wow, cool, can we go on the set of Streets of Crocodiles, which, oh my God, let's do Quay Brothers. All right, let's put that on the list. We gotta do Quay Brothers. And when we do Quay Brothers, let's make sure that we credit Mike Rader with the reference, with the suggestion. Yeah, well, Am said that, but you're making me realize also that earlier I missed a comment from Amanda, and she said, no, that's not the one, it was after that, hold on, there it is. Oh, the visual of the studio is so beautiful by itself. Amanda, if you go back and you look at videos of him really early on in the studio when he's first making them, it's one place. And then as his career progresses...
Yeah, he has 2 studios. He uses one studio just for the drawing and the animation, and then he uses the other studio more for sculpture.
Well, he also has an education center in the city of Johannesburg, right, where he actually brings people in from the city. He kind of does a lot of outreach, charitable outreach to people in the city, and he works with them from the standpoint of performance and drawing. It's really cool the way he functions as a community leader. So I love that about him. I love watching artists working. Yeah, but the problem with watching artists working, Amanda, is, and you said it a minute ago, is you start seeing into their studio spaces and you're like, oh God, I'm only working at my kitchen table. I want a 12,000 square foot space with vaulted ceilings and exposed beams.
I have a question though.
What?
Does he really work in a white shirt all the time? Did you notice that?
Does
he really?
He's always dressed in that white shirt.
Flying all over the place, and he's wearing a white shirt. Is that really going on? Sorry, that's the mom coming out.
I hope he does.
He probably does.
I hope he does.
The way he says, his demeanor and everything, I can totally see him really rocking the white shirt and keeping it clean.
Ben says, that was an awesome show, guys. Can't wait. Oh, there it is. Wait for the next one. Awesome. Thank you. Am's like, ooh, some Brancusi vibe. Wait. Oh, is that the studio reference that I made? All white. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we could do a show on Brancusi. I actually wanted to build an endless column in my yard, but I think the town might get on me for that. So, yeah, Brancusi did wear all white. I don't know if I can pull that off. I can't. No. Maybe I'll do a show with that. Yeah. Ketchup thumbs. Well, everybody, we want to thank you very much. Listen, if you're watching right now and you have not left a follow, please follow our channel. If you only caught half of tonight's show and you want to see the whole thing, you can catch it on our YouTube channel tomorrow. There are links to all of that stuff in our About below this page right here. Mike says, love the new segments. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate your support and you being here. We love having you. And next week we'll have to pick out who we're doing. We've got like 3 in the hopper for that one. We gotta pick and get moving. All right, Happy New Year, guys. We love you all. Thanks again, and cheers. Talk to you soon. All right.